And moving on to that, Louise, you know, Princess Beatrice has just given birth to a baby girl. I mean, it's some fabulous news, and I'm sure we've got the photo there. It's absolutely stunning, the photo that has been released by the palace. But, you know, this is a lovely piece of news. Can you tell us about it? But it does, again, big contrast to all the other things going on.
Absolutely. With all the disgrace in Andrew's public life, he has actually got a new granddaughter, Athena Elizabeth, of course named after the late Queen, which is a beautiful touch. She was the tiniest little thing. I think she weighed about 1.9 kilos when she was born on January 24 this year. So a beautiful little girl. Obviously a younger sister for Sienna, who's now 3, and Wolfie, who of course is her father's son too, in a separate relationship. But yes, great news for the royal family. Of course, the King and Queen sent their congratulations, of course, and so did many other members of the royal family. So a beautiful little girl. Despite her precious size, we understand mother and child are doing well, which is great news, and obviously great for Andrew. At least some good news for him.
Anyway, off the Yorks and on to the Sussexes. And Angela, look, not long after the Sussexes took a whack from Vanity Fair, now they've been trashed by stand-up comedian John Mulaney and in front of a whole heap of Hollywood elites. So who was there and what happened?
Well, Ben Affleck was there, Tina Fey was there, so real Hollywood A-list. What happened is that he's got a new show in Netflix. These were the sort of upper fronts for Netflix announcing the new shows about to come out. He's got this chat show. He's sort of describing what the show is like, that it's a little bit vague, but he makes the point, and this is really critical because this is in front of a whole lot of Netflix execs. He says, not since Harry and Meghan has Netflix given more money to someone without a specific plan. Basically, that just shows what a laughingstock Harry and Meghan are in America. For this guy to rip into other Netflix talent, because of course they're still on the books with Netflix. They've still got Meghan's show about to come out in March too. So to have been so brutal and so much bravado, not only in front of, you know, the elite of Hollywood, but in front of those Netflix executives, speaks volumes about how they're regarded in America.
Absolutely, and if that wasn't enough, randomly, Piers Morgan and Tucker Carlson had a sit down with each other in the Middle East. There's a lot to unpack just there in that concept itself, but they did talk about the Sussexes, unsurprisingly, and this is what they had to say.
Meghan Markle does not represent black people in the United States. I don't know if you knew that.
No question she doesn't. Don't worry, I'm very familiar. She doesn't represent anybody.
Of course
other
not.
Than a very elite, hypocritical group of people who are really going to go down in history as the most hypocritical group of people ever.
And the most incompetent. Like, they don't know how the power grid works. They can't fix a car. They don't know anything. They're totally useless. They're parasites. And when given the chance to rule, they, like, wrecked the country because they don't know how to do anything.
Now, Louise, we know Piers, well, he's had plenty to say about the Sussexes, but what's your view on this particular insight by Tucker regarding Meghan? Or both of them, but he was quite pointed.
He was quite pointed. Look, I see this as a real stinging rebuke for Meghan because she has championed her sort of biracial status. You know, she's often said in sort of comms or in interviews, you know, my father is Caucasian, my mother is African American. She went to Nigeria, of course, with Harry, and she's very proud of her sort of racial heritage. So to be called out by Tucker Carlson and Piers as well, two of the most, you know, diabolical commentators in the sense that their reach is far and wide, it is very bad for Meghan because that's often a topic which you can't discuss. I mean, I know people who live in California who say you cannot even mention anything around Black Americans or Black Lives Matters and sort of cast a disparaging comment towards Meghan because you'll be cancelled. So I found it absolutely fascinating to watch the two of them pick her apart and say she doesn't represent Black American people, when of course she probably feels that she does.
And Angela, have you got any other views on that? Like for two big commentators like that, like Louise referred to say something like that, you know, on top of the pile of everything else that he's said, you know, it does make things a bit more difficult.
Look, I agree with Louise wholeheartedly, but I also think we have to keep in mind that Piers Morgan does bring a bit of a backstory to this. He, of course, very early on in the relationship with Meghan and Harry, he had previously met Meghan. That had a get-together in London, so he's always had an axe to grind with her. So that doesn't surprise me, but it's a pretty powerful thing to have said.
Absolutely. And Angela, still with you, a great piece in the Sunday Times this week about the royals becoming more tactile. And then also these reports about Princess Catherine, that people should look at their children and not at their phones. Now, I thought these were two very interesting reports and clearly an effort to humanise the royal family, in my view.
Absolutely, and it's happened so quickly. Firstly, just on the hugging and how tactile they are. If you think about the late Queen, she didn't touch anybody. She only held her handbag. She didn't touch her soul. We've seen the King hugging the New Zealand women's rugby team. We've seen recently, just in the last few weeks, Catherine with cancer survivors and, of course, Auschwitz survivors. So there's real proper hugs. These aren't just like little hugs. These are proper hugs. Definitely more tactile. But what you're saying there about Catherine and the parents looking at their phones, this all aligns. This is all very much about being present with your children, talking to them. Her charity has come out and said, don't look at your phones when you're talking to your children. And for her to back something, that's a fairly strident social policy for her to be backing. Really interesting, though. George is 12 this year, her son, the age that kids really want phones. How are they going to manage that? Yep. That'll be interesting to see.
Oh, absolutely. And Louise, I've only got about 30 seconds left, but in a similar vein, Kensington Palace is going to stop giving details of Princess Catherine's outfits and instead focus on the substance of her work. Look, we all love the royal style, but is it a good move?
I do think it's a good move. It's clearly something Catherine wants. She wants to focus on being a mum and being the Princess of Wales and also her charity work as well. And I think it paves the way for far more strategic support from her for fashion, rather than sort of captions going out about, whatever dress or shoes or handbag she's carrying at the time. I do think this is not the end of Catherine in fashion. In fact, I think it signals something much bigger she's obviously going to unveil.
Let's hope so. Thank you so much, Angela Mollard and Louise Roberts.